Ever been in an argument where you knew you were wrong, but the other person was being such an arrogant piece of work that you wanted to destroy them anyway? Yeah, that feeling right there. That's your brain screaming for the psychological weapons I'm about to give you. Here's what's going to blow your mind. Winning arguments has nothing to do with being right. Nothing. The smartest people lose arguments every single day to complete idiots who understand something they don't. Human psychology is more powerful than human logic. But here's the part that's going to make you dangerous. I'm about to teach you the exact psychological tactics that let you win any argument, even when you're completely, objectively, embarrassingly wrong. These aren't debate club tricks or lawyer techniques. These are mind games so effective that once you start using them, people will either fear arguing with you or avoid you entirely. And I'm warning you right now, this knowledge comes with a price. Once you see how easily people's minds can be manipulated, how predictably they react to certain triggers, how desperately they crave validation even in the middle of a fight, you can never unsee it. You'll start winning arguments you don't even want to win. I've identified 5 psychological weapons that turn any argument into your personal playground. But here's what's really twisted. The more wrong you are, the more effective these become. Because when you're wrong, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. By the end of this video, you'll have the same mental arsenal that politicians, lawyers, and master manipulators use to bend reality to their will. Look, here's the brutal reality that's going to sting. You've been losing arguments your entire life, not because you're stupid, but because you're playing by rules that don't exist. You think arguments are about facts, evidence, and logic. Meanwhile, everyone else is playing a completely different game called who can manipulate emotions better. You walk into arguments armed with research, statistics, and rational points. And you get absolutely demolished by someone who just knows how to push the right psychological buttons. It's like bringing a calculator to a knife fight. Technically impressive, but completely useless. Here's what's really going to piss you off. That coworker who always wins in meetings, he's not smarter than you. That friend who somehow always gets their way in group decisions, they're not more logical. That family member who turns every discussion into their personal victory lap, they're not better informed. They just understand something you don't. People don't change their minds based on facts. They change their minds based on how you make them feel. And here's the kicker. They're probably not even doing it consciously. They've just stumbled onto these psychological triggers through trial and error, while you're still trying to win with PowerPoint presentations and Wikipedia citations. But here's where everything changes. I've spent years studying the psychology of persuasion, not from books written by academics who've never been in a real argument, but from watching master manipulators in action. Politicians who lie with a smile, salespeople who sell ice to Eskimos, lawyers who defend the obviously guilty and win. And today I'm giving you their playbook. The first psychological weapon is what I call the redirect missile. This one's so dirty, so effective, that once you see it in action, you'll spot it everywhere. Here's how it works. The second someone makes a valid point against you, you don't address their point. You redirect to their motivation for making it. That's interesting that you'd say that. What's really going on here? Are you feeling insecure about something? Boom. Now they're not talking about your argument anymore. They're defending their emotional state. You just turned their attack into their weakness. But here's where it gets really twisted. Even if they realize what you're doing, they still have to respond to it. Because ignoring the redirect makes them look guilty of whatever you just accused them of. It's psychological quicksand. The more they struggle, the deeper they sink. The second weapon is the false concession trap. This one makes people think you're being reasonable while you're actually setting them up for destruction. You start by agreeing with a small part of their argument, then use that agreement to demolish everything else they said. You know what? You're absolutely right about that one point. But if you really believe that, then you have to admit that everything else you just said completely contradicts your own logic. Watch their brain short circuit as they try to figure out how their own words just got weaponized against them. The beauty of this technique? You look like the mature, thoughtful person who's willing to find common ground, while they look like the stubborn one who can't handle nuance. The third weapon is the confidence hijack, and this one's absolutely brutal because it attacks their certainty, not their facts. People can defend their opinions, but they can't defend their right to have confidence. Here's the setup. You don't challenge what they're saying, you challenge how sure they are about it. Wow, you seem really certain about something that even experts disagree on. That's interesting. Now, they're not defending their position anymore. They're defending their right to be confident about it. And confidence, unlike facts, is purely emotional. You just drag them into a psychological wrestling match they can't win with logic. But here's the genius part. The more confident they were originally, the harder they fall. Because now they look arrogant for being so sure about something you've just framed as uncertain. Their strength becomes their weakness. The fourth weapon is the empathy trap. And this one's so manipulative it should come with a warning label. You start by appearing to understand their emotional state, then use that understanding to control the entire conversation. I can see this is really important to you, and I respect that. But when we let our emotions drive our thinking, we sometimes miss the bigger picture. You just did something diabolical. You acknowledged their feelings while simultaneously dismissing everything they said as emotional rather than logical. Now they're trapped. If they get more passionate, they prove your point about being emotional. If they try to be more logical, they're admitting they were being emotional before. Either way, you control the frame of the entire argument. Here's what's going to happen when you start using these 5 psychological weapons. At first, people are going to be confused. They'll walk away from arguments with you feeling like something just happened, but they won't be able to figure out exactly what. They'll replay the conversation in their heads, trying to understand how they lost an argument they should have won. But here's the dark part. Some people are going to hate you for this. They'll call you manipulative, say you're playing mind games, accuse you of being unfair. Perfect. That means you've graduated from being someone they can steamroll to someone they actually fear facing in verbal combat. And here's what's really going to mess with your head. You'll start noticing these exact techniques being used on you everywhere. Politicians, salespeople, your boss, even your friends. Once you see the matrix of psychological manipulation, you can't unsee it. You'll realize how often you've been played by people who understood this game better than you did. But here's the warning that could save your relationships. Don't use these weapons on people you actually care about. Save them for the workplace warriors, the family members who love to argue, the strangers on the internet who think they can bully you with their opinions. Now, if you're ready to become psychologically untouchable in every argument, subscribe because next week I'm revealing the 3 phrases that instantly shut down any aggressive person. And the week after that, the body language secrets that make people unconsciously agree with you before you even speak. Drop a comment and tell me, what's the most ridiculous argument you've ever lost to someone who was clearly wrong? I'll feature the best stories in my next video. The weak will keep losing arguments to idiots. The smart will start winning them. Which one are you going to be?